Imagine, you wake up in the middle of the night, hearing a chilling laugh beside you. Before you can react, a burning liquid engulfs your face and body. The pain is indescribable. The life you once knew is gone in seconds. This is a true story more terrifying than any horror movie. A tale of love turned into deadly obsession, justice that feels incomplete, and a man forced to make an unthinkable choice. This is the tragedy of Mark Van Dongen, a story that will make you think twice about the dangers of toxic love. Few stories in modern history are as horrifying and complex as the tragic tale of Mark Van Dongen and Berlinah Wallace. This is not merely a story of a relationship gone wrong, but a dark chronicle of jealousy turning into brutal violence, unimaginable suffering, and a heartbreaking legal battle. At the center of it all, Mark's desperate cry echoes in memory. "Kill me now." Mark Van Dongen was a talented young engineer from the Netherlands who had built his future in England. Intelligent, full of enthusiasm, and seemingly on a promising path, he never imagined that his decision to enter a relationship with Berlinah Wallace would be the beginning of a nightmare. In 2015, after suffering severe acid burns from Wallace's attack, Mark was rushed to Southmead Hospital in Bristol. When his father, Kees Van Dongen, arrived at the hospital to see his son, he found something unimaginable. "We looked in every room, at every bed, but I said, this must be a mistake. Mark is not here." But then, a doctor told him that Mark was in the very first room he had passed. At that moment, Kees realized the horrifying truth. His son's body and face had been destroyed by the brutal attack. Burns covered 25% of his body. His charred skin had to be surgically removed. His face was permanently disfigured, and he lost vision in one eye, almost entirely in the other. In unbearable pain, Mark whispered weakly, "Kill me now. If my face is going to look like this, I don't want to live." Mark and Wallace's relationship began sweetly around 2010. Wallace, a fashion student nearly 20 years his senior, seemed to have an unbalanced relationship with Mark. His father recalled, "I felt she was using him, but Mark loved her more than I thought she loved him back." However, what began as affection turned into tension. Wallace became possessive, manipulative, and consumed with jealousy, an obsession that grew more terrifying over time. When Mark finally decided to end the relationship in August 2015 and move on with another woman, Wallace could not accept it. By September, driven by rage and vengeance, Wallace purchased a liter of sulfuric acid online, removed the label, and began researching acid attacks. She knew exactly what she was about to do. When Mark reported Wallace's harassment to the police, she was merely given a warning. But that night would mark the beginning of unimaginable horror. In the early hours of September 23, 2015, Mark awoke to Wallace's cold, triumphant laughter. Then came the last words he heard from her before his life was destroyed. "If I can't have you, no one will." Then she threw the sulfuric acid over his body. His screams of agony pierced the night. Mark ran out of the apartment wearing only his underwear, his skin melting from the deadly chemical. A doctor, Nick White, who first saw him, initially thought it was a cruel prank, that the man outside her house had covered himself in mud. But as she got closer, she realized the horrifying truth. It wasn't mud, it was his flesh melting away. Mark spent 4 months in a coma. When he finally woke up, he could not move except for his mouth and tongue, communicating by pointing at letters with his tongue. He lost most of his bodily functions, suffered from severe depression, and at times wanted to live, but more often he wished for death. By November 2016, he was moved to a care home, but just a day later, he called his father in terror, begging to be taken to Belgium. His father arranged a secret journey, bringing his son back to a hospital in Overpelt. It was there that Mark, whose body continued to be ravaged by relentless pain, made the most difficult decision. He applied for euthanasia. His body was destroyed, and even his bone marrow was still burning from the acid. Doctors determined that his suffering was truly unbearable, both physically and psychologically. On January 2, 2017, the euthanasia was carried out. In his final moments, Mark remained calm. When doctors tried to remove his father from the room, he said, "No, I want my dad to accompany me on my final journey. In heart-wrenching silence, a catheter was inserted into his heart. Moments later, Mark Van Dongen took his last breath. In court, Wallace tried to defend herself with lies. She claimed she had only thrown a glass of water, but the evidence and witnesses told a different story. Judge Nicola Davies called the attack a meticulously planned act of evil. Wallace was found guilty of throwing a corrosive substance and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 12 years. However, many felt this punishment was still too light compared to the suffering Mark endured. This case leaves behind troubling questions for the conscience. Was Wallace's punishment truly sufficient? Should Mark's euthanasia have been treated as a separate legal case? More than just a tale of murder, the tragedy of Mark Van Dongen is a chilling reminder of the terrifying consequences of unchecked jealousy and rage turning into cruelty. Mark's final plea, "Kill me now," will forever echo as a testament to the suffering he endured and the failure of the legal and social system to protect those trapped in toxic relationships. A painful story, a lesson that should never have to be learned again. This tragedy isn't just about one man. It's about how the system failed to protect someone from a toxic relationship. How far can obsession drive someone to destroy the life of the person they once loved? What do you think? Was Berlinah Wallace's sentence truly fair? Should Mark's euthanasia be seen as his final act of justice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more real-life stories that shake the world, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. See you in the next video. Stay safe and never let a story like this happen again.